There's a new OP build that has emerged due to the lethality item changes, while Naafiri is still looking extremely broken even after the nerfs. Welcome back everyone to the 13.16 mid-patch tier list update, where we provide you guys with the inside scoop on any new meta trends, along with a complete update on the solo queue tier list, thanks to the help of our challenger players and analyzing the most recent data. But before we get into it, be sure to check out SkillCapped if you want to truly get better at League of Legends. We're the only service that offers a money-back guarantee if you don't climb at least 5 divisions while actively using our service. We do this because our service really does work, and if it doesn't work for you, you shouldn't pay. Learn more at the end of this video or click the link in the description below. The first adjustment we'll be making to the top lane tier list for mid-patch is moving Akali up into a good A tier spot. Buffs this patch have amplified the lane bully power of the champion even further, and she's back in a very solid spot for solo queue. The champion is definitely a bit more difficult to execute than many top lane fighters, because if you fall behind on Akali, she really doesn't offer anything. Once you learn your matchups and can exploit the laning power of Akali, she becomes super devastating, but it may just take you a bit of time to get there. Since trading aggressively in lane is very important on Akali, our Master in Minutes course on trading can really help you out. Most top lane Akali players run the same summoner combination that we see on Camille, being Ignite with Teleport. This provides you with so much dominance in the 1v1, and if the enemy does not have Teleport, you pretty much just won lane off of that fact. Aatrox was one top lane champion negatively affected by the Duskblade nerfs this patch, but should you actually be dropping the item now? Definitely not, as even after the nerfs, Duskblade is still heavily outperforming Eclipse and Gore Drinker as Aatrox is mythic. The champion is without question slightly weaker here in 13.16, but you can still make him work. Not the OP pick that he was a few patches ago, but we continue to have Aatrox rated as a good A tier option. Moving on to the top lane tier list, the front of the pack does not change for mid-patch, as we've got Malphite, Camille, and Alawi in the OP tier. One minor adjustment we're making to the tier list for mid-patch is moving Volibear up from B into A tier. Volley was buffed back in 13.14, and the buffs have definitely flown under the radar. What makes Volley top quite enticing right now is that he has two unique builds he can run and adapt super well to each game. You got a full-out split-push AP Bruiser setup of Nashers, Riftmaker, and Hullbreaker. On the flip side, a tank build consisting of Iceborne, Spirit Visage, and Sterix Gauge works extremely well too. In regards to who the best value bans are out of the top lane, Malphite, Fiora, and Camille are our top 3. To smash your way out of low elo the fastest, add one of Malphite, Garen, or Mundo to your champion pool. We mentioned during the intro that there is a new build, or maybe we should say old build, that has come back for 13.16, which consists of rushing Umbral Glaive. Kha'Zix and Graves are two junglers really taking advantage of the Umbral buffs and are seeing incredible results. The 2-item core you will want to be playing on Graves consists of Umbral Glaive into Ghostblade. One of the huge perks to Umbral is that it only costs 2,300 gold, and a way to ensure you hit the spike as soon as possible is by running Futures Market in runes. As for Kha'Zix, rushing Umbral Glaive and then going Duskblade second seems to be what most players are doing right now. Just like the Graves rune setup, you also want to be running that Futures Market for your Kha'Zix rune page. We had moved Kha'Zix out of the jungle OP tier for the pre-patch tier list due to the Duskblade nerfs, but now that this new build has emerged, he's right back up in OP for mid-patch. So for the jungle tier list, we have 3 champions in the OP tier for mid-patch, being Evelynn, Jarvan, and Kha'Zix. The Duskblade nerfs have not hit as hard as expected, and there's also a new build popping up for Kayn this patch, so we're moving him back into S tier. The Axiom arc buffs are proving to be quite impactful for blue Kayn, and he's doing super well slotting the item in second. The full build is looking like a Duskblade Rush, Axiom Arc second, and Cyrilda's Grudge third. Manamune is also completely viable as well in place of Cyrilda's Grudge. It's not really even close on the analytical side of things in regards to Kayn's best performing second purchase. Axiom is blowing everything else out of the water and should not be slept on for 13.16. A few of the most optimal jungle bans for this patch include Evelynn, Kha'Zix, and Graves. Adding at least one of Rammus, Shyvana, or Nocturne to your champion pool if you're in low elo will be of great benefit to your climb. Riot decided to sneak in a last-minute change that we did not cover in the pre-patch tier list, and it's a quality of life buff to Malzahar. Mal's E damage tick rate has been increased from 0.5 to 0.25 seconds, which is quite nice to make last hitting with E a bit more consistent. To compensate for this, the minion execute threshold on Mal's E has been reduced a bit, from 15 scaling to 45 health to 10 scaling to 30 health. Overall, a positive change that has not led to significant shift in Mal's solo queue win rate, and we will be keeping him in our mid lane A tier for now. This really only occurs whenever a new champion is released, but Naafiri's win rate actually increased this patch, even with the nerfs. As everyone gets more games in on Naafiri and there's less players first timing it in ranked, there's going to be a positive effect to the champion's performance. Another factor as to why Naafiri's win rate has increased is due to players dropping Duskblade for Eclipse. It's actually pretty nuts, but players rushing Eclipse on Naafiri are winning about 3% more than those going Duskblade. There are 2 really strong builds going around that you should be playing for 13.16. It's either the Eclipse Rush, which is most standard, or a Ravenous Hydra Rush is becoming more and more popular. In lanes where you just want to shove and roam and not really interact with your lane opponent, going Ravenous to push waves quicker is great. If you are in a winning matchup and want to really exert your dominance in the 1v1, then going for an Eclipse Rush is viable too. This should come as no surprise, but Naafiri will continue to be rated as an OP tier mid for 13.16. One of the support champions buffed for 13.16 that is now actually seeing some pretty good success in the lower ranks as a mid laner is Brand. AP ratio on Brand Q and E were increased, which has way more of an effect on solo lane Brand than support Brand. The champion still has its difficult matchups in the mid lane against assassins like Fizz and Zed, but picking him into other similar ranged mages can work well. In the lower ranks, where players can't exploit Brand for his lack of range and mobility as much, he can perform quite well, but he's definitely more vulnerable into competent opponents. We'll be adding Brand to the mid lane tier list for 13.16, but he's only going to be rated as a B tier pick. Let's take a look at the complete mid lane tier list, as we've got Naafiri and Xerath leading the way as the most OP carries. Everything has panned out to our expectations for mid lane this patch, as Naafiri is still OP, Tristana remains a solid mid laner, but is now in the A tier instead of S, and Akali is back to being a good mid lane pick placed in our A tier. Echo buffs have been pretty impactful, nothing over the top, but he's looking like a fringe S tier pick as a result of the changes. Sylas has also landed as to where we expected on the analytical side of things, as he remains a good A tier pick despite the buffs. The highest priority mid lane bans of the patch include Zed, Naafiri, and Fizz. Malzahar, Aurelion Sol, and Annie are three of the most optimal mids to climb low elo the fastest. We featured the new Lethality Sivir build in our recent OP builds video for this patch, and with how versatile Sivir's builds can be right now, we are giving her a bump up the tier list. Whenever a champion has the luxury of adapting really well to each game, it makes blind picking them way more worthwhile. Into comps with a heavy front line that you'll need to be auto-attacking a lot to chew through, going crit with lethal tempo can work great. Vice versa, if you are into squishier comps, then playing the CDR build, sitting back at a safer range and chucking out Qs off cooldown can do the trick. Sivir is one of the most underrated ADCs for solo queue in 13.16 and will be taking home a spot in our S tier. As more and more players continue to catch on to the power of Trinity Force Vayne, her win rate has been rising for the past few patches. It's kinda crazy how a champion can go from being one of the weakest in the game when building one item, a new build catches on, and they are suddenly one of the most powerful. 2-item spike of Static Shiv and Trinity Force is absolutely insane for Vayne right now. Shiv is perfect because it alleviates Vayne's main weakness of having no wave clear, while Trinity Force works amazing with Vayne's strong extended fight power. If you're building Vayne correctly, she is an S tier ADC for 13.16. However, if you're going for the Kraken into Rageblade build, she's nothing more than a B tier pick. Taking a look at the ADC tier list, Ashe and Miss Fortune are a cut above everyone else, being the two OP tier champs. The Lucian buffs from this patch have exceeded our expectations ever so slightly, so we're adjusting him up one tier, going from B into A. Same can't be said for Caitlyn though, as she was buffed as well, but the change has not moved the needle enough to warrant a push out of B tier. We noted in our pre-patch tier list how Ziggs has been seeing a lot more play as of recent by pro players, so our challenger ADC 6axe went ahead and completed a full game commentary for you guys if you're looking to pick him up. Now that Duskblade has been nerfed, Samira is seeing way better success rushing the Collector instead. The Collector into Infinity Edge is looking like the more optimal build for Samira moving forward. Samira is still weaker now though as a result of those Duskblade nerfs and remains in the ADC B tier. A few ADCs who are worth a ban in this meta include Kai'Sa, Ashe, and Ezreal. Three of the best ADCs to climb out of low elo are Sivir, Miss Fortune, and Ashe. The support tier list is looking nearly identical to where we had it for pre-patch, with Rel, Rakan, and Zyra as the OP tier champs. Karma, Melio, and Lulu were all buffed this patch, and as expected, the changes were not nearly enough to significantly increase the power of any of them. One support who has not been getting as much attention as she should right now is Poppy. Poppy is a really great answer to so many of the meta melee supports, and because there are way less strong enchanters in meta, it allows Poppy to fit in quite well. A few support champions highest on our ban list include Nautilus, Blitzcrank, and Rel. Heimerdinger, Zyra, or Rel are going to be three of the best bets to climb from low elo as support. Alright guys, before we wrap this up, let's tell you a little more about SkillCapped. So, we offer a 5-division rank up guarantee, and think that's a pretty crazy thing to offer. It's like a gym membership guaranteeing you'll get ripped. Your local gym would go bust if they offered that, right? Not us. We've offered this for years because our service really does work. It works so well, in fact, that we're able to produce by far the largest catalog of premium league guides on the internet. We add over 20 videos a week, with over 1,600 guides curated into over 100 courses no one can compare. We've also sent challenger players into Elo Hell 714 times and counting, where they commentate how to carry live. They also respond to all questions asked. Sign up today for as little as $6.99 a month if you are serious about improving. So there you have it guys, a complete update on the tier list for all roles as we reach the midway point of 13.16. Thank you so much for watching, good luck in solo queue, and we'll see you back soon.